have a lack thereof. So we ourselves, the creatives, have to become businessmen and women. So it's good to have Abilaniuch in the world. So before we move on to the next segment, I feel like ሁላችሁም ትንሽ ቁጭ አላችሁ መሰለኝ። አንዴ ብድግ እንልና stretch እንዴ ተከተሉኝ እንጂ ምን ናችሁ? Are you guys alive? አላችሁ? አላችሁ? አላችሁ ሌሎቻችሁ? Awesome. So አንዴ stretch. ጣሪያ. Roll and sit. With that in mind, በጣም የተከበሩ አቶ ተሾመ ከበደ እዚህ በጣም በእውነት እኔ በጣም ብዙ ማለት የምችለው ነገር አለ ስለሳቸው። በጣም recently ነው ስለሳቸው ያወቅኩትኝ። ነገር ግን the past 2 weeks I've been reading a lot about your work that you have done throughout your life, and I have had the pleasure of talking to you before the show as well. A really remarkable man. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, Ato Teshome Kebede is the former CEO and founder of Genuine Leather Crafts PLC. Genuine Leather Namataku. It's, I think, the first Ethiopian leather brand to be exported, and now Africa recognition itself. And I think you studied management as a major, and then accounting as a minor. ከዛ በኋላ ብዙ ነገር ነው ያለው. So I'm going to read some of them for you. And mind you, this is just leatherን ብቻ ተንተርሼ የምናገራቸው ነገሮች ናቸው. More ከእርሶ ጋር ሳወራ በደንብ እናውቃለን ብዬ እገምታለሁኝ. Genuine Leather Craft PLC was established and ran successfully. It was classified as the top of the industry in Africa for more than 20 years. Pioneering entry of Ethiopia's leather goods and industry into the export market. He was a business leader in the country and here in Ethiopia with more than 35 years of experience. Some of the major projects in which he was in the top leadership include development and structuring of the livestock and leather value chain of the Republic of Rwanda from 2004 to 5. As the lead consultant, deputy chief of party and manager of livestock, hides, skins, and leather sectors of the agribusiness and trade expansion program in Ethiopia. It's a multi-million-dollar project that was aided with UNICEF or USAID. And some of the other work that he does is he was the vice president of the Addis Ababa Chamber of Commerce and president of the Ethiopian Manufacturing Industries Association. He also served on the board of the Commercial Bank of Ethiopia. And he is a committed Rotarian. For those of you Rotractors, so he's a committed Rotarian since 2001. Some of you might not have been born. I'm young. And he's been serving Rotary in various capacities since day one of his induction, including the district governor to District 9212, which is Eritrea, Ethiopia, Kenya, and South Sudan for Rotary from 2015 to 2016. I'm not going to say all of it because really it's a lot and I think we're going to unpack that Zari. So with great respect and honor, please welcome to the stage Ato Teshome Kebede. This is where we sit on the comfortable chairs for ዛሬ እኔ ተጠያቂ ልመስል ነው ማለት ነው. Whatever makes our guests more comfortable ብዬ welcome. በጣም ደስ ብሎናል በማለትን ስለተገኙ. One thing ማለት ከምን እንደምጀምር አላውቅም. ስለዚህ እስቲ tell us your background እና ደስ ያሉት አማርኛም እንግሊዝኛ መጠቀም እንችላለን. and stop me ብዙ ከጠየቅኩኝም. እሺ.
Thank you very much. I think I'm honored to be here, among which I see nobody of my contemporary, and I like to see these faces. Today, I'm 70 by the way. Today, my age, My age is around 25. Am I right? The average age here is 25, so I bring you about a little up worse of the 20, and then we are about 25 years old today. That's the average age tonight. I love that. Now, I will be speaking both in American and English, so that young people in here shouldn't forget to speak their mother tongue very well. Not just talk for communication, but talk it right. Not only Amharic, all other languages of Ethiopia, you should speak them. So I would be mixing Amharic and English, and I think in that way I would transmit my message right and the way I want it. Now, when I talk about myself, I don't think I should start without telling where I am from. I'm actually a farmer's son. My parents are, both mother and father, are farmers. They died farmers. So I am one of those people that came from a farming community, from herding cattle, and all the way up to what this country can offer as education, and now live a lifestyle much different from where I come from. That does not mean my parents were farmers, but no farmer in Ethiopia is poor, I tell you. No, not materially poor at least. Every farmer in Ethiopia is rich. The only fact, the only difference between the rich and the poor in the farming community is they don't know the resources they have, or they have not interpreted it in a way that others would like to have what they have and take for granted. I think that's the biggest difference. My parents never had anything to buy of urgency. They have everything grown at their backyards. Clothes, most of them are handloomed, which is the village. Fashion, what do we call fashion now? The way they are made, the garments they are designed in the village. And they last for years. When they make holes, there are holes on them, somebody patches them with needles, sometimes decorating them with the different kinds of timber we have in the countryside. So the only thing they buy is salt, sometimes coffee. Otherwise, they have everything they need. And I remember, up to age 12, I was in the countryside, and going to priest school, and I had clothes that were 5 years on me. They never get torn. And if they are torn, they are okay. Today you are tearing your clothes intentionally, don't you? So in those days, when it is torn, somebody, an elder, will sit down and stitch it, patch it. Now, anyway, I come from that kind of background and appreciate that. Anything I see in my life, I view at it from that background, from that perspective. And I like these young people who spoke before me and brought down my age to about 25. They have so much truth in what their presentations had, the concepts they said. And to me, the practical life, the practical aspect of fashion is actually based on what they really said so well. So when I actually joined the business aspect of fashion, I used everything as they said in that. So I call myself today a businessman, in which I have been there for 35 years, very active businessman, a business leader, because I was not a quiet person sitting in a corner and only thinking about the money I make, but I was also thinking of how my being in business impacts my communities, my root communities in the countryside, everywhere in Ethiopia, and everywhere in the world for that matter. So I was a business leader as well. And then I must say, I consider myself now a philanthropist for livelihood. As I said before, no Ethiopian farmer, which is supposed to be the poorest of the poor, is really poor in terms of wealth, in terms of material. It's just understanding how to convert the opportunities around them into livelihood means and live a life of the kind that we are living here. So I am a businessman, a business leader, and now a philanthropist. At 70, I'm going to be a philanthropist and a Rotarian for the next 30 years, and that will be the end of my life in this world at 100. Do you accept that? Well, that's who I am now.
So ያደጉበትን ሲነግሩን በቃ ከተቀደደ we patch it up. Somebody, it's about long lastingness. እንዴት ነው when it was about practicality. So when you first started, was leather your first business? How did you get into it? How did it get to genuine?
Yeah, I think that's a very important and important question, and something I have my deep passion about. I come from a countryside and from livestock farming population, as I told you. When I come to the city and made my life as an employee somewhere, and later on I became an employee of the government, and later on I become somebody high in the hierarchy of government, civil service I must say, and finally I had to leave that. When I leave that, this was during the dark days, the only way I could leave my appointed position was to take up a private business. It was not my intention that I would become a businessman, but the only way I could escape an appointment by the dark system, which was more or less a communistic or socialistic system, is to call yourself a businessman at Hari. And then nobody will look at you again. So when I resigned, the next thing I did was pick up a trading license for 10,000 birr. I didn't have 10,000 birr, but because if I declare that, I will have to show it in my bank, and I didn't have that much money. My first capital was 9,500 birr. It's a system. So when I went in, I started a company that did import-export. At the time, this was licensed by the Dutch government. At a time when the private sector was destined to die in the country, because the country was really being guided to become a communist country. So I started the days of the private sector, fully licensed to do it, and I started there. But as the socialization continued, to come to your question, as the socialization continued, I had to look into opportunities that would keep me going as a private sector entrepreneur. So the Derg started loosening, rather tightening the socialization. My coffee export business was literally entirely confiscated. It's not the business, but the line of business was confiscated. My pulse and cereals export business was also confiscated. It became a government avenue of business. And my import, I used to import hardware and workshop equipment. That also paralyzed because of lack of foreign currency. The only thing I could do was look for something else that the government allowed and did not require foreign currency, did not require any imported raw material into it. And when I see there, the only good one that I could pick up was product of livestock. The product of livestock, I wouldn't go into dairy because that predominantly the agrarian sector, the farmer sector. So I say, why wouldn't I add value to hides and skins that this country is very much known for? So I started my leather business.
So when you first started, Mejemera, it was about, okay, I need to be in the private sector. Kaza bahala ግን ደርግ ሁሉን ነገር ጨዳርጎ ቅፍት ዳርጎ ሲይዘው, you decided, okay, I need to add value somewhere, and livestock hides and skin is going to be better that way. No. What was the most crucial moment when you first began your career in genuine leather?
Yeah, I think I must now say how I started, let's say, engaging in the leather business. I didn't go into making leather itself. What I did was buy tanned leather from the local market, produce leather products, mainly apparel of leather, garments, accessories means bags and all the kind of things that people carry as in addition to what they wear. And that was what I was trying to do, because there wasn't really, in those days, there wasn't really any formally producing company of leather garments and leather accessories. There was only one Korean company that was working in partnership with the government. So I started targeting to produce leather garments, but I knew producing leather garments, jackets that cost now 2,000, 3,000 birr, whereas in those days 250 to 350 birr. But even at that low price, inexpensive price, I must say, there weren't many Ethiopians who would afford it. Those who can afford can import leather jackets from Italy. Those, or when they travel, they buy one, or a friend buys for them. But those, you don't really have big market for leather goods because already above the spending power of the average Ethiopian. So I said, okay, why wouldn't I target the export market? Ethiopia has been exporting raw hides and skins, or semi-processed hides and skins, since time immemorial. And I said, can I start producing something that the Koreans are doing with the government, and they're exporting to their country, from their country they're exporting to the rest of the world. I said, can I do it right from here? And I decided to produce leather garments first and foremost, and start producing them here, sell to the people who can afford, and those that are beyond, let's say, the purchasing capacity of the local market, I export them. So I started doing that. That's how I really designed my business first and foremost to start with.
So the business plan was export ለመጀመር ከመጀመሪያው. So it wasn't just for the local market.
For me, the local market was just a stepping stone. My ultimate desire was to go export.
Okay. So did the policies change? መሀል ላይ ወይንስ ከድሮም ኤክስፖርት ይፈቀዳል እና ደርግ የነበረው ፖሊሲዎች? Okay, let me rephrase the question. What were the policies that were very essential, ይህንን ነገር እርስዎ ማድረግ እንዲችሉ ማለት ነው, essential ሆነው የተቀየሩ መሀል ላይ? What changed?
No, the world changed actually, because whoever would export and import foreign currency for the country, earn foreign currency for the country, was given a priority and the necessary support, in quotations, were given, because they are earning foreign currencies that the country needs so much. So when I started, in fact, at the later days of the Derg, the policy also started bending a little bit. Instead of going completely socialistic, because the socialist world was crumbling as well. I don't know how many of you would know that, but it was really getting less to be seen in the world. So the Derg said, now, why would we think of mixed economy? Because the private sector is good at some of these crucial foreign currency earning areas. So the government said small and medium enterprises are more encouraged to do their job, and my company was in that range. So I could start that leather goods manufacturing and exporting firm under the guidelines of the government, that any foreign currency I earn will actually be taken by the government and I will be given the equivalent in bill. It's exactly how it works today.
So, እስካሁን ድረስ ያወራነው is the business aspect, and from business plan to value chain, manufacturing, etc. From a creative side of fashion creation side, what was your involvement? Also, what's your outlook on the importance of creativity for the leather industry, or in your experience?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. Personally, when I was going to the high school, I was attending what was called industrial art classes in high school. Industrial arts have various subjects you can choose from. One of them is woodworking. You just choose. The other one was tailoring and designing. Very crude nature of what we are talking about today, but definitely the basic is there. So I was trained in my high school days as a woodworker. I'm a good carpenter now. If I want to be, I can produce these. The second one was I could tailor garments, sit down on a machine and produce. So when I started this business of leather, I have already the basic knowledge of tailoring from high school days. But to really grasp the elements of producing products that would sell in the world market, I needed to go and train myself. So I took trainings in France and in Italy in basic design. basic design and pattern making. These are really what it takes to produce the kind of garments Gucci's, Armani's, Yves Saint Laurent, and everybody produce. But you can copy one, you can produce your own as you go high in the competitive world. The originalities that my previous speakers said would be an integral part of your marketing strategy. So what I did is sharpen my skill of designing garments and making them. Going to school, not knowing fashion as an art, and producing a fashion item are two different things. So I went to France to have the theoretical part of design, and went to Italy to learn the basis of making fashion items for a few months, not years, for a few months. Then, fortunately, there was a time then when the European Union noticed there are small leather factories everywhere in the country, but they are not producing anything that is marketable in a very competitive environment. So I was picked by one of these cadre of people going around to see who are producing something that can be sold internationally, and I was given a scholarship to do these trainings, plus got somebody who would come into my factory and train my workers, including myself. So we started really, seized an opportunity and started refining ourselves and started producing items of fashion. Well, I don't know if I have answered your question, but that's how it is.
You did, in abundance, bedem. So my next question is, globally acceptable የሆነ brand or product, what are the key elements in your opinion for a globally acceptable product to be competitive on the global market?
I think that would be converting what the earlier speaker said into the practical side of the fashion world. It's really understanding which segment of the market you want to play in, where you think you are strong and you can be strong and you can be competitive. That's number one. Find out the segment of the market or the niche market that your products, the products that you produce, can go to and win you the day. That's number one. Number two, choose something for which you have your personal passion. The passion that you have in yourself about something is so important for what you produce eventually and succeed with. So choose something that you love from the bottom of your heart. Choose something that you want to take a picture with, and always will be proud having been pictured with that product. So that's number two. Number three, know your market. This is very important. I don't know, you can't create a fashion or a product, a marketable product of fashion, without knowing the market, without knowing its strength, without really not just knowing when it happens. That is basically when you say you react to something that has happened, but to try to see before it happens, forecast, analyze, and write up trends, the trends where fashion is going, where the interest of your market is going, in other words. You need to know that, so that you are actually a pace setter yourself instead of a reactive participant of the market. You lead your competitors. The day you are led by your competitors, you're gone. You're really going down the line. Avoid that. Be the leader in your market. Under Mijak Adami is a very meaningful slogan for me. So in fashion, it is so important. Missing that will actually make you or break you. These are the very important parts of elements of really succeeding in a fashion market.
One is know your target. The second is have passion, make it personal. I think passion fruit, I guess, and make it personal. And then know your market so that you can navigate it and not change pace.
Lead the market. Lead the market. You should lead your market. Where you play, don't be the second backbencher. Be right at the front if you can. And you should strive to do that. Whoever has succeeded in the fashion industry are those who have really led, not those who have copied. Copying is okay, a way of life, that is survival. When you are drowned in a river, you need to keep your nose above the surface of the water. Coping for me is just to keep your nose above the surface of the water so that you don't drown. So if you keep yourself all the time in the lead position, you are actually the leader. That is where success, sustainable success, is really in your hands.
That was okay. Thank you so much. I feel like we're touching subjects that translate to other sectors of the industry, like not just fashion, but other industries in general. Any way that we work, like. Thank you for that. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna take note of that. We have videos at it. ወደ የሚቀጥለው ጥያቄ ልምጣና ቅድም እንዳሉት አብዛኛው ሰው እዚህ ጋር ያለው በጣም ወጣት ነው። They're all young designers and fashion icons. እና what do you, in your opinion, what do you see is the challenge that they face today? When you see the young talents that are coming out and at this new to entry የሆኑት ሰዎች, what are the barriers that they have to hurdle through?
Well, I think that is a very important question, and I want to compare that with the days that I started my business, which was really very much attached to fashion, and the days you have now, which is again deep in a very fashionable world. In my days, the difference between the top leaders of fashion and the newly coming ones is so huge, there is nothing in between. Either you copy them or you match them. That was the choice we had in my days. It's not very long, really. It's 35, 40 years ago. None of you is 14 here, but in terms of time, in terms of development, 40 years is not much. Now, so 40 years ago, there was no choice between being at the top or at the bottom. There's nothing in the middle. Either you copy or you strive to be out there. What we created, we managed to create. Not I can't say I created, but I facilitated the creation of an accessory brand called Taitu. Who knows the accessory brand called Taitu or heard about it? Taitu is a brand, an Ethiopian brand. Taitu is Taitu. It's a ladies' handbag collection that actually sold at a time on the same shelf with Prada, Gucci, Hermes, and what have you. It was selling in Europe. It was made by poor laborers here. Our workers were getting 200, 300 per salary out of Ethiopian sheepskins, goatskins, cows, and what have you. It sold out there because since we knew there is no landing space between the bottom and the top, we just geared ourselves to go to the top. Thanks to the financial support of the European Union in those days, we could run right there. Did we maintain it is a different question, but we were there and we were selling to New York, we were selling to Paris, we were selling to London and Tokyo. Look at the best brand on earth. I say London, Paris, Tokyo, and so on and so forth. The four cities are always mentioned. And our Taitu product was selling there. So really, it's a question of consistency. It's a question of really pushing for that end and remaining loyal to it and marketing it well. I don't know if I have answered. I am often carried away when I take these kinds of questions.
In your opinion, do you believe that አሁን የሚመጡት እንትኖች አዲሶቹ ዲዛይነርስ እና ኒው ኤንትሪ ቱ አዲስ entry የሆኑት businesses in fashion and in the industry, do you believe that they don't have the consistency or the force እናንተ የነበራችሁ ነው ወይንስ ምንድን ነው?
Absolutely. I mean, I think ultimately that's what I pray. I hope young people in here will pursue, and that must be it. And the opportunity now is such that people are very crazy about new items, original items. It's still there now. Okay, original items. Originals need not come from New York, Paris, London, or Tokyo, they can come from your head, from your brain. So you can. All the things I saw, you guys were, the speakers were bringing some images here. Those are all original to me. They are original. And I think you have all the opportunity. But this is not an easy takeoff. It can be a little bit of a shaky start, but you can overcome that if you work together, not alone. Create an industry. I hope she will ask me later, what would I do if I have to do it again? Is make an institutional arrangement between yourselves. Not individually, all of us have created institutions. But institutions, if they are alone, they are not sustainable. If they form an institution as an industry, you guys can make it. And you guys can have say. You guys can have power. All the genius in your heads put together is a bigger genius that can take you anywhere you want to go. So the start can be a bit rough, but don't be discouraged by that. In my days, if I didn't put a cravat on my neck, a good shirt, shoes and everything, and sometimes in some places, if I don't smell some perfume out of me, it was not really that serious. But now I can see fashion designers, fashion conceptualizers, like the guys who spoke in front of me, are so well spoken, and they speak so well about their philosophies, their outlooks, their beliefs. And this is really the biggest opportunity you have. You don't have to spend too much of what you want to market. Market it as original. Market it as appealing to your niche market. Market it in a more proactive way of your niche market's response. I know all of you have a niche market in mind. They use the above average age, the below average age, or whatever criteria you have for classifying your markets. Just respond to that one and continue responding. Keep them satisfied all the time. And believe me, you can start.
I was actually about to ask you, you said whether or not we maintained it is another question. In your opinion, looking back now at what you have done and at what you could have done, what is it that you wish you had done to persist? What is it? Where do you think your mistake was that made it like so that it's not in the market, in the European market now?
I wish I had institutionalized the succession of my businesses. That's what I have not done. I wish I had somehow influenced the qualifications, the professional directions of my children to take over from me. It's something that I'll be proud for the rest of my life. What I have done in the industries that I created, the industries I run, the marketing perspectives I explored. These are things that I will always be proud of, and who made me what I am today. I'm not a rich person, no question about that. I'm not poor either. But more than anything else, my children are much better than what I am today when it comes to financial terms. But what actually enables them to have is a very strong mental strength, personality strength. So they are so strong in what they believe, and they go to the end of the world to achieve that. I wish I had created that institutional succession for the kind of business I was trying to develop in the country. I consider myself as a pioneer, as she said before, as a pioneer of Ethiopia's leather goods. Don't misunderstand me, not leather. Leather goods. Leather goods does not include footwear, fortunately, where I have no part. But leather goods means garments, accessories, bags, and all belts, and all the gadgets you have around there. I have pioneered that to enter from my country into the world market. I have pioneered e-commerce of leather goods and other accessories from my country when there was no even email in my country. These are innovative aspects of doing things that would change the face of a country like ours that has everything in the world but could not market it, and still we have to go for that. So really, what I would do again is make sure that my footprints
are followed by somebody else other than me, because the day I don't make the footprints, then they stop there. So that's what I would have done.
Before I go on to my next question, I have so you just listed some of the things that you have done in a concrete የሆነ ነው ብለው የሚያምኑትን then we all have those highlights, crucial moments የምንላቸው highlights of our careers. Lenny, it was being on stage in front of the Queen of Belgium. I didn't sleep that night. Sure, you want to know now. What are some of your highlights in your career that you look back on fondly?
Well, if I understand you well, highlight means what are the characteristics in you that made your path forward. Is that what you mean?
No, milestones. ለምሳሌ ይሄንን እንደዚህ አድርጋለሁ ወይም እንደዚህ አይነት recognition የተሰጠኝ የተሰማኝ ደስታ አይነት።
Okay. I think my first milestone that has changed me and all that look after me as a role model is my living employment and trying to employ myself. That's number one. I never regretted it. The day I left my business, which was a civil service business, I had 285 cents in my bank account. Just left it. Now, I never regretted having done that, because I've become my bread earner, and that is why I say now, if I'm going to be a philanthropist for the rest of my 30 years, I will only be a philanthropist that will help people earn their own livelihood. So really, that is a decision that I have made, and I think I have made a correct decision. The second one is my creation of a passion for myself about adding value to raw material my country exports. The raw materials my country exports. Every kind of raw material. I can say more about heights and skills because I have been working there for more than 30 years, but every other thing is exactly the same way. So anything we do by way of converting something made in the country into a more value-added product, believe me, that is a money that we would earn, but have really a sustainable footprint of ours behind us. That is one milestone. The milestone that I have decided to be a manufacturer, not really a trader. A manufacturer. Trading is taking money out of here and putting it here. But manufacturing is adding value. Adding value to what all of us together can make. So you guys who are already thinking of fashionably designing what this country produces in various forms and sending it to the market to earn a better price for them are really adding wealth to your country's wealth. So that's really the second one. I can continue, but these two are the most important ones.
እኔ አንዶትስ ይመቹኛል በጣም ነው የምወደው አንዶትስ እና is there anything that you remember that was amusing way እንደ ገጠመኝ አይነት ነገር መቼም ልረሳው አልችልም ይሄን ነገር ብለው የሚያስቡበት እንደ ማኑፋክቸሪንግ ቢዝነስ ሊሆን ይችላል ወይም የነበሩት የቢዝነስ ኢንተራክሽን ሊሆን ይችላል something amusing that you remember?
I'm one person. As I said, I came out from behind, running behind the tails of cows, bulls, and what have you. And now I'm a businessman, a philanthropist, and whatever you may call me. So I really see opportunities in everything. I don't regret anything that I see something like that has happened to me. I always see an opportunity in that one. It's everything in the world that you meet. Everything in life that you meet. It's just like a coin. A coin does not have only one face, it has two faces. Maybe the third one if you look at it at the cross section. So I don't know, I might not have understood your question, but what I see is everything I made has been a lesson for me. And based on those, I have refined my next steps. So I don't think in the first place, I simply, there is no chemistry in me, so from my chemistry. I don't have it. I believe we are two because we are two. Not only two physically, but also two in our way of thinking, in our way of outlook of this world. So, how can I say I can't talk to this person again or that lady again? No. So I say, how can I live with this person if I have to live with him? Or how can I avoid him altogether? Or avoid her altogether? That's why I say, I don't think I have anything that I see that was not good in my past or up to now. I don't know if I have answered the question, but it's just more by, I have some hearing impairment, so I started trying to read her lips. So
I'm going to so I'm getting to the last of my questions, and now I'm going to focus on them. And the entrepreneur, and these entrepreneurs, Sigamu, your path is mainly business and not manufacturing oriented. ከዛ በኋላ ነው ወደ ክሬቲቪቲ ነው የመጣው። ከዛ በኋላ ነው ሁሉም ነገር አድ የተደረገው and then we're here። አሁን ያለው ደግሞ ላንድስኬፕ የተለየ ነው። የዛን ጊዜ በደርግ ፖሊሲዎች ምክንያት ምናምን you have to focus on the money part መጀመሪያ in order to like be given recognition and given freedom in the most for the most part። አሁን new entries ካላቸው barriers አንጻር እና ምናምን what do you believe is the best path for an entrepreneur to take in the fashion industry today? ከምን ጀምሮ በምን አልፎ ወዴት ይሄድ? Who are the people that they can turn to? ጥያቄ ሲኖራቸው ፍላጎታቸውን የሚያሳካላቸው ወይም ደግሞ ቦታ የሚመራቸው ሲፈልጉ ሜንቶር ሲፈልጉ where can they go? How should they lead?
Well, that's a very difficult question to answer, but generally speaking, respond to your passion. That's what I have said, and this was already, I have that endorsement. Unless you like what you are doing and you are passionate about it, unless you want to associate yourself with that line of engagement, unless you feel you are in a worthy business, a worthy engagement in your life, you will not continue too much on that one. At the early stage, it may be difficult to pick one and say, this is what I'm going to pursue. But don't limit yourself to that and only that. Pick a few of them, test them over time, and see where you are building the highest grip in terms of passion about what you have in your hands. I think this is what I can say, really. I mean, design or even fashion, I don't know, fashion is, of course, as already explained, something about the way you handle things. I personally feel it's not only really designing apparel and creating a fashion that responds to the time, the call of the time, is not the only one. It's even the way you think, the way you direct yourself to express something, the way you express yourself. So choosing from those is really the same to me, and that is trying to find out what you think you are good at, sharpen that, increase your capacity in that, and that will by itself lead you to the direction, because the end result is, what did you get out of it? I don't mean the monetary value of it. No, it's not the money part, the business part, but even the understanding and embracing of it, taking as part of yourself. If you can really make it part of yourself, and this is the doctrine that I'm going to follow for the rest of my life, and that is the kind of path you develop for yourself, I think that itself really brings about what you have to be loyal to and continue developing. Development for me in whatever you are doing does not end at teenage or middle age or whatever. I think up to the 100th year that I'm going to live, I'm going to continue developing what I have pursuing right now. So I don't know if I have answered your question, but this is my feeling.
You have, in many ways, again. ሁለተኛው ጥያቄ for the audience is media, local and international media. It's very important for especially product-based Dewono businesses who plan to export, who plan to work on an international and global competitor media is important. How have you dealt with international and local media, and what do you say to the new entry?
I mean, my fellows, what I see in media, you cannot live without the media supporting you as much as possible. And even more so now. In my days, maybe a cover on the Ethiopian television could earn you a good deal of response. But nowadays, it's more than that. It's more than that. And number two, it's not only that, more than that, but everybody else in the world would like to make use of the media. So the media is a very difficult component of success in any endeavor in our life today. But to manage the media, it's not possible to attract the media at a stage that you are, I am, and anybody in the third world is, except the very, very, very few who can afford to pay for it. But if you can design yourself, strategize yourself, initiate your action strategies and action initiatives in the way that they want you, you don't want them, but they want you, then you have the upper hand. You are leading now, as I said before. So if you are doing something fabulous, something very good, something that is the talk of the town, the media looks for you because they want to take a picture with you. I quote a few examples. There are Ethiopian brands that are globally, repeatedly covered for millions worth of time if they were to be paid. I'm sure you know some. I don't have to name anybody, but there are Ethiopian SMEs, small and medium enterprises, producing $50,000, $60,000 worth of goods and services and selling in the world market. But people line up, the world media lines up one after the other to have an interview with them. That is what you should try to achieve. I tried my very best. I was 3 or 4 times interviewed by the BBC, who came to my factory and took picture of the whole process for half a day of how we were producing a particular jacket called polo jacket. You know polo jacket. Polo jacket is this. It's not necessarily only from suede leather, but from leather with knitwear here, knitwear there, knitwear on the cuffs, and some patch pockets, but a very fashionable. So they followed that from when we started cutting the leather to all the way we produced the jacket and put it on a. That is BBC. My business never was able to pay for 10 minutes of that service. They did it from their own, not once, twice or thrice. We had a cover by the CNN. These are the most expensive medias in those days. Now, today we have a different option now because the social media may not cost you anything, but you can't be in the clutter of social media promotions and still be heard by people. You have to stand out of them. To be that, be the best you can be, and be taken by those media corps to wish to be with you. That's all I can say really. If you are the best, everybody wants to take a photograph with you. You can't even ask for that. The best is to do that, my lady. There is no other way.
I think that's a very viable option. የመጨረሻው ጥያቄ before I open the floor to the audience for a short Q&A. What is the relationship between senior professionals in the industry and new market entries? And what are the senior professionals in the industry doing in order to welcome, in order to make things easier, in order to help the new entry businesses? And can they turn to these professionals? And if yes, where can they turn to? On this question, I'm going to put you on the spot. Again, they need to know who they can turn to if they have any problems. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think this is a question we all have to raise if we have this strata of professionals. I know there are several young professionals like yourselves. There are many of you out here. But if you look up in the hierarchy of age and see how many more professionals, for example, of your kind, let's say, assuming even, there are really high-level professionals in you, some of you I know, but there are others that I still discover. These are really high-level professionals. But if you take, for example, the presenters today that we have here, the keynote speakers, and look up the ladder and see how many of their capacity do we have in the country. We may not be able to find many in the country. Maybe out of the country, yes. The others are just simply too busy to come back and say, can I have a professional responsibility to link with the young generation that is coming up and actually replacing me? I think that is something somebody has to work on. For every knowledge we have, especially people of my age, the poor farmer behind the plow has paid for it. I did not pay a single cent for all the education I have. Not even 10% of Ethiopians have. I didn't pay a single cent. My children are paying now. I can pay for them because I can afford. But my parents didn't pay for me, but they paid tax. Now we are responsible to pay that back. And how we can pay that back is by supporting you guys. Take a faster leap than the slow leap we have taken and help you succeed. That is an institutional arrangement that must be made as a strategy for the country's development. This is very lightly seen in many aspects. It's not only in fashion, in all other educational fields, in all other skill fields. Connection between the seniors and the juniors has not been created. And therefore, that cohesion, that continuous, that sustainable growth between generations finds a big gap. And therefore, success in one generation is not carried forward into the next one. And you guys have to start from the scratch. That is terrible. That is terrible, wasting your time, and wasting your time is tantamount to wasting my country's time, my citizens' time, so that they don't really benefit from your skills, the heat in you that is really burning so high to make a change in this world, because you are not given a wide door to step in and move forward because there is no link between you and your seniors. I really am sorry, but that is what I said. If you guys don't want to repeat what I can't call myself a fashion person and left something nothing, but I have been a manager of fashion, but I've not left anything behind me, so that you guys, whoever, some of you are fashion designers yourselves, or some of you are managers of fashion yourselves, but I have not left anything for you behind. If you don't want to do the same thing that I did, or the real fashion designers didn't do, don't repeat it. Meet your heads together, create your institution, and make sure you guys are institutionally represented. Any one of us can die, live alone in COVID days, even otherwise Tinata can kill us. But if we have an institution that represents in our absence, that institution will create the stepping stone for others that would follow suit. That is what I can say, really.
Oh, correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, the connection has not been done. Yellem. Good. Now you guys have each other, so that you can turn to each other and build what we have not known. I'm going to open the floor to a couple of questions. We have 10 minutes on the clock for your questions. And now, hi. So we're going to pass a mic. So if you have any questions, raise your hand to Ayob and he will assist.
Hello everyone, good evening. And I'm so honored and privileged to ask you also. and I also very inspired by your speech and answers for some questions. My name is Brooke. I'm currently a grade 12 student, and I have two questions. The first one is, I think leadership is very important thing that must be inspired by others in order to put a legacy that lasts longer. So if it's a concept or a matter that puts the creative or whatever stuff's on our mind to execute on the physical thing, what qualities must one person as a leader have to fulfill by your experience to fit that leadership which lasts longer? And the second one is, one thing is important, I think, also you were trying to mention, is that there must be something left for others in order to have a long-lasting impact in fashion or creativity, whatever designs. So what one person or leader must prepare himself in order to put a legacy for others or for the generation to so behind. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. These are really very valid questions from a young man. What I can say is, let me start from the last one. What would be something that one has to leave behind for the generation to follow suit? I think in simple language, what one has to do is write down your chronicles. If everything is in your head, it goes with you. But put it down in manuals. That's what, I mean, it's not easy to have a manual these days of what you have been doing. Put your chronicles in manuals, whatever you have designed, whatever you have created for somebody to follow. Put a description of them, a diary of them, a manual of them, so that in your absence, somebody else would follow suit. What I want to say there is, often we write things in a way that are understandable only to us. No, I think if you are writing anything, write it complete, write it full. Don't put it in abbreviations and things that people don't understand. Because something you write and leave behind is actually learned from in your absence, often, in your absence. If you have written something and it's not clear enough, it's not articulate enough, it may be understood in a completely different direction, and your message in there is not left. So write your manuals clearly, your stepping stones, your steps in doing what you have decided to do clearly, and leave them behind. That's number one. I don't know, now you have to remind me your second question. This comes at 70, you don't know it now, but it happens. What was your first question? You tell me that.
The first question was what one leader must fulfill in order to be the best leader and to fit for that position. So what are the qualities that one leader must fulfill?
Okay, thank you very much. It is just a leadership quality. I mean, I personally believe leadership is not really a position. It's not something you talk about. You are general manager, director, or a chief designer, or chief finance officer, or what have you. It's more of an action. So whatever you say in leadership, wherever you want to lead your subordinates, lead the way. Be the first person to do it. Don't tell them to do it. Show them how to do it. I think that is the best you can do. So first, leadership is an action. It's not a position. That's number one. Number two, be the best leader you can be, according to your own perception, of course. Be the best, and be the example of the good leaders that you talk about. Third, don't make difference between your subordinates. You would have made your own group otherwise. When you are assigned to lead a group, everybody is supposed to follow your pattern, your way of doing things, your guidelines. Look at everybody equally. Not necessarily, I don't mean equally as such in terms of status, but be clear to everybody. Be just to everybody. Be transparent. Be communicating. Communication is really what makes or breaks the tie between a leader and his or her follower. Communicate well. Communicate clearly. Communicate on the same subject to everybody in the same way, so that you don't really create a different level of understanding. If there is really, let's say, a difference in the cognition of your message, be passionate about explaining to the level of the person that is supposed to understand from you. I think these three are very basic. Don't be, and that's the Taiwan, don't be temporal. Don't be volatile. Volatility didn't do good even to the volcano. When it erupts, it's gone for good. There will not be that ash, that stone, or anything that comes out of the crater back again. It's gone forever. So don't be volatile. Be passionate. Be magnanimous. Be generous. There is one friend of mine, I don't see him anymore. I don't know what has happened. COVID is doing a lot of mess these days. He said, there are so many things we can do good and still live together very well. So don't go into fighting. Don't go into notoriety building notoriety between you two. Be kind, be magnanimous, be understanding. Two people are always two, whether a husband is a wife or a brother and a sister or even twins. Two people are two. They always have some element of difference between them. So understand to live with that. That is what I can say are key points, key elements for a leader to be.
Aptly put. I am really sorry. I have met a lot of people on these kind of stages, and I have had the pleasure of talking to a number of mentors throughout my life, and I've also had the honor of mentoring. This is mentor tabiye, but I have never ever had somebody articulate what I needed to hear. Not just having not known what we need to hear. Somebody that can tell us what we need to hear, not what we want to hear, but also put it so articulately and so full of wisdom. This has never happened in my life, and I am very thankful that you're here, despite the whole roads and traffic. I am very humbled and honored to stay on the same stage with you, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. As I understand it, ይቆያሉ አይደለም ሰው ቀርቦ ማናገር የሚፈልግ ከሆነ for the next few minutes ይኖራሉ አታስቸግሩ. But now, for the next 30 minutes, 40 minutes, we're going to have a networking session. So for the next 40 minutes, we're going to have a networking session where you guys can approach the booths. Castel Kahala alle for those of you who are above 21. So we can start that session, but before that, I want to say thank you to you, and I also want to say thank you to our partners, Castel BGI and Sapphire Addis Hotel, but and for this comfortable and beautiful couch, and this lovely table that you see here, which is a work of another friend of mine, is Q-Box. It's made out of modular yohono elements where you can turn into tables, cupboards, and other elements. It also has features that you can customize on your own. በጣም እናመሰግናለን ስለመጣችሁ. I understand how difficult it must have been for you guys to get here, and for those of you who made it on time demo, an extra thanks, and for those of you who came in late demo, we are very glad that you joined us. Next month በተመሳሳይ ፕሮግራም እንገናኛለን. MindLink is a link-up production. ስሜ ኤዶም ይባላል. I'm going to see you next month again. I'm not fired at it. I'll see them next month. So I'll see them next month. So it was really nice to see you guys. So please walk about, talk to each other, make connections. This is why we're here. And now,